Hello and welcome to the Sarah and Suzanne YouTube channel. I'm Sarah Willis, and today we are talking about navigating what to consider when buying a rental property that has tenants. Suzanne and I are licensed realtors here in Central Oregon, and we make these YouTube videos every single week on Ben lifestyle topics and investor topics for new and seasoned investors alike. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite topics, so let's watch. So investing in rental properties can be a lucrative venture for your real estate portfolio. So rentals provide a steady stream of income and potential long-term appreciation depending on where you buy and if you keep up with rents. But the idea of purchasing a property with tenants might seem most appealing to most people, but it comes with its own set of considerations and challenges. And in this video, we're going to talk about what you need to think about when you're buying a rental property with tenants already in place. So the first suggestion might seem obvious, but it's part of your diligence. You can either ask to review existing leases and rental agreements before you go under contract, or otherwise we can write this into part of your contract when offering on a more competitive property. Perhaps you don't have time to do all that diligence up front and it's something you can do during the process. So obviously, you're going to want to know the terms of each of your tenants' leases, the rental amounts, and any special conditions that have been written into these leases. This information is not only crucial for financial planning, but also just making sure that the whole transaction goes smoothly before and after. So you're going to want to know things like when the lease expires, what the conditions are for renewal for these particular tenants, and what termination might look like for them. Also, little things in there that are important to think about are late fees for the particular tenants. Are pets allowed? Do they have, specific deposits? Those are some of the little bit finer points that you're definitely going to want to scour their lease for. Depending on where you're buying, tenant rights and regulations vary greatly from state to state. So you're going to really want to understand landlord-tenant regulations, specifically where you are purchasing. Different areas might have varying rules that make eviction, for example, more difficult in one state to another and favor landlords or tenants. So in this process. So again, if you are a landlord for any, long duration of time or any multiple doors, eviction is something that you're inevitably going to come across at some point or another. Knock on wood. I guess I know some seasoned landlords that haven't, but their strategy is a little different. So again, just to protect yourselves from all fronts, just make sure that you're either using a really good property manager, or if you're a little bit more DIY, like Suzanne and I, again, just really educating yourself on all the potential legal pitfalls. And this really will just make sure you help maintain a positive landlord-tenant relationship from the beginning if you know everyone's rights to tenancy. Number 3, again, some of these things seem obvious, but they're definitely worth pointing out. And communication. Communication is so key when it comes to adopting tenants. So from, once you get through all of your contingencies, like I highly recommend getting in touch with tenants or getting permission to get in touch with tenants just before close to prepare them for what's coming. Whether, again, you might be raising rents automatically on some of these people if their leases allow or if time is up. But at the very least, you were required to inform your tenants of change of ownership. I do this with a change of management form that basically just outlines any changes that are being made in their lease, any changes to how they get in contact with their property manager, whether that's you or another property manager that you're using, how they request repairs, differentiating for people between urgent and non-urgent repairs. So again, this goes hand in hand with reviewing their lease. And again, any changes that you intend to make or need to make have to be approved through the tenant that you are adopting. So presenting them with this change of management form and having them review and sign through and just having communication with them from the beginning about what's going on and how they can reach you from the beginning, establishing trust really can just pave the way for everything going smoothly, them feeling like they have trust and can communicate with their new landlord from the beginning. Number 4, one of my favorite ones is assessing the condition of the property. And a big part of this is talking to the tenants. The tenants will tell you so much about what is going on with the property during inspections. So typically the way we do this for our clients that we get under contract for multifamily properties is we let our clients or our buyers visit the home during the home inspections. And oftentimes, they're doing their walkthrough of these units for the first time. Oftentimes, tenants are present. They get to have conversations with these tenants, and the tenants get to have conversations with the home inspector. So it's just a really great way to get insight, A, into your property, and B, into what your tenants are like and how they live. So, not only is the building well maintained, but is their space well maintained? And how do they communicate? So again, this is just, when you buy a multifamily property, you're not only buying the building, if it is tenant occupied, you're also adopting tenants as well. Of course, part of the process is evaluating rental income and expenses. So basically just the deal analysis part of the process. This is something that we recommend typically doing ahead of offering. We can get leases and we know expenses, what landlord paid utilities are, and maintenance costs and taxes and insurance generally, all from the get-go, comparing that to the income, right? And how much money you're putting down on the property. And this is how we can determine, the financial health of this potential investment. Again, when you're purchasing in Central Oregon, it's a little bit harder to find multifamily properties that the rents have been kept up and align with the purchase price and the down payment in such a way that there is cash flow. But the greatest thing about Central Oregon is you can depend on appreciation. And if you are a thoughtful landlord in terms of, your own financial health, you are planning for small rent increases annually on your tenants in order to keep up with inflation and help the appreciation of your own property. Number 6, we already touched on a little bit with, the talking to tenants, but really understanding the tenant relationships and with their prior landlord and their history in general. So having access to their rent rolls. So seeing, how often they've had late payments, missed payments, late fees assessed. Have there been any, significant issues or disputes? You want to ask to see the records of their repair requests. Are they extremely nitpicky and needy tenants? I don't know. That's not something I really want to play into. I consider myself a good landlord. I keep up with regular maintenance. I do things that are asked of me, life safety issues, things like that. But, is this person asking for you to repaint their cabinets because they don't like the color? Are they not able to change the batteries on their own smoke alarm? Things like that. Are they able to use a screwdriver and tighten their own screw that becomes loose, or are they calling their landlord to do things like that? So again, pros and cons to adopting tenants. So if you get tenants, you may get good ones, you may get bad ones, but these are people that you don't get to choose. You're going to definitely want to know about their history. You're going to want to ask their property manager or their landlord what their relationship has been like in the past. Consider rent increases and renovations as a pretty crucial part of owning a multifamily property. So a lot of landlords just buy the property and let it go, right? They don't do regular maintenance on things. There's a lot of deferred maintenance when we see a lot of deferred maintenance in multifamily properties that are up for sale to the public these days. So part of being a good landlord, as I've said already, is planning for regular rent increases and budgeting for capital expenditures like when fridges break or appliances break, and regular maintenance every year, keeping up with deck stain and HVAC maintenance and, trim paint, replacing the carpet every, 10 years, repainting the interior of apartments so it's fresh for the next tenant when you go from one tenant to the other. So it's important to plan for these things. It's also important to know your rights around, in the event whether you have a qualified landlord reason to evict someone in order to do repairs. That's also a potential way to remove someone from your property in a legal way. If you are purchasing a property with units with a lot of deferred maintenance or that need renovations, and maybe you don't have a tenant in there that you don't particularly care for, that's one way to potentially legally remove them. So another thing to just consider as part of the process and when you get to know your tenants, different options for dealing with them. As always, consult legal advice and licensed property managers when doing any of this, right? Suzanne and I are licensed realtors. We are not licensed property managers. We obviously own our own rentals and have been through a lot of this on our own, but really you need to make sure you're assessing all of your situations and the risk involved and consulting experienced real estate attorneys to help you navigate tenant rights, once again, and local laws pertaining to your rentals is really important. So as we discussed, purchasing property with tenants in place can be a great thing because you've got built-in tenants. Maybe they're great. Maybe the landlord's kept up with rent. Awesome. You want to keep those people. But it can also present challenges if you've got ones that maybe are paying far below market value and it's going to take you forever to get them up, or they're really needy tenants, or they don't pay rent on time. These are all things that you're going to want to do your diligence on. So in some cases, it's a good idea to buy properties that are tenant occupied. In some cases, it's just fine to buy properties that are vacant because then you get to choose your own tenants, do your own vetting process, and choose your own rents. So hope this was helpful when you are in Central Oregon, anywhere in the greater Bend area, and you're looking to purchase a multifamily property. Suzanne and I would love to help you navigate that process and represent you as your realtors along the way. Talk to you guys soon.